Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was an earlier discussion about the Chiefs, and I want to say as a Pennsylvania resident and an Eagles fan, I don't much care whether they're located in Missouri or in Kansas. I'm just happy that we came back to dominate them in last year's Super Bowl. So. Dr. Coates, you've been talking, and I may ask a few others this question as well, but you've been talking about the tax exemption of bonds as it relates to building stadiums. And I'd like to know whether you have an opinion as well on the tax exempt status, the nonprofit status of some of these large university sports programs and even of the collegiate conferences as well. And this is, I think, in the context of a broader conversation we've been having about our nonprofit sector, which obviously we extend nonprofit status to organizations that are providing a public good, and in return for that we give up the taxes. But we've seen an explosion of nonprofits over the past few decades, and we've had some of the large hospital groups here, some of the huge public university endowments. The question is really whether that continues to be a fair trade-off. And I'm just wondering if, as we've seen the business of college athletics dramatically grow in recent years, they're looking more and more like professional teams, which I think in all cases, certainly in almost all cases, they are for-profit companies. The leagues are as well. Should we be looking at that relationship? Does it still make sense to allow some of the large college programs to be nonprofits?
I struggle with this exact issue, partially because it's related to the question from Ms. Sewell, I think, that there are public purposes, and most of the university, I think, serves those public purposes, and the tax exemption is perfectly reasonable in that case. But the athletic department, it's not always clear what the public purpose is. And if that could be made clear, then I think the tax exemption would make sense. But as you've said, it looks more and more like they are for-profit entities. And if they are for-profit entities, then they should be subject to tax just like every other for-profit entity and not receiving the tax exemptions. As they say, the devil's in the details, and exactly identifying how an athletic department that is very much intertwined with the university is a for-profit entity and the rest of it is not.
Yeah, I think it's a tough question, but I think it's a question that we need to ask. Mr. Raiola, any opinions on the topic? Mr. Madden, anything?
I haven't seen the books or records or tax returns of any universities, but I do know that some schools, some power conference schools are looking into, and some have actually initiated, having their athletic departments form their own business entities. I think part of the reason for that is to bring in private equity to help fund them. I also know from reporting and talking to some administrators that many of the major power conference schools, the powerhouses, are operating at significant deficits year after year. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out going forward. But I don't think a separate athletic department could have tax-exempt status. I don't see how that could be a possibility.
Thank you. Dr. Coates, would your comments essentially apply to a collegiate conference as well? I mean, these are organizations that are not directly providing the educational benefit. Huge, over $1 billion in revenue for the Big Ten, I think it was, over $1 billion for the SEC as well. Should they be nonprofits?
To the extent that the revenues that they collect stay with the organization as opposed to get passed through to the universities, I think absolutely. To the extent that the revenue they act as a pass-through to the universities that are part of the conference, then I think not. I think that this private entity aspect that was suggested, there is some evidence that that exists. I think it's the University of Iowa. Their athletic department is 100% separate from the rest of the university, and maybe legislation that made that hold across would resolve this issue.
Yeah. Thank you.